So I'm Aisha. I'm the founder of AishaS Marketing. It's a brand that I've been building recently, but my work is 17 years old. I work as a content strategist, a copywriter, and a marketing expert. And I help like corporate companies as well as solo businesses, like the whole spectrum. And I basically partner up with like expert business owners to clarify their messaging and clean up their marketing systems so that we can build the visibility that reflects their true brilliance and expertise so that they stop blending in, and they start booking aligned clients consistently on an inbound path rather than having to hunt and chase, right? So that's what I do. I've been featured in the Economist for my work. I've been on, Odesk, that's now Upwork, so on their marketing team as an analyst and a communications expert. And I'm a certified NLP coach as well, and a speaker for South by Southwest, a long time ago. The reason I started, building this brand online and, showing up like this is because, I believe that while Upwork and, platforms like Fiverr and Upwork and all of those are very good sources to get work, that you don't have control on them. So once you build your own brand, you get to leverage, that control, and you get to set your own rules, and you get to decide who to work with, who not to work with, and you are in control of your own business, so to speak. So that's what I'm doing here, and that's what I love building for other people as well. The freedom that comes with building your own business, so that you can spend your time doing what you love doing rather than that 9 to 5 job where you have to be there and you're thinking about what's going on at home and where your kids are at and whatever else is going on in your life. So yeah, it's all, we're all chasing that freedom. that's what that's what my chase looks like.
Yeah, I'm really interested. Um, I'd love to meet you privately, Aisha, but I don't want to change the subject. Uh, and do you do you notice that freelancing, especially freelancing in marketing, has changed a lot in the past year, or is it?
It has.
It
It
has.
definitely has, especially with AI in the mix. And this is something, I've done some lives myself. I've been on networking events, and this is what I preach everywhere. Once we're using AI, we're creating a sea of sameness. That's what I say. It's a sea of sameness, and everybody looks the same because we are getting AI to build our websites, like Amanda was explaining, and then what she said, and then for turn it into content and messaging, and that's what I help people with, because you don't, like, sure, you can get a website and the content done in minutes, but once your prospect lands on that page, would you be satisfied with what AI has to say to that person? It will not have your personality. It will not have your lived experience. It will be very generic. It will sound like the 10 other people who are actually your competitors. And then, the buyer gets confused by all of it. And if you put your human side, that relatable content, your story out into the world, it makes a very easy yes, because it creates trust. And that trust is what is, like, it's the big basic selling currency these days. That's what you need in order to build a brand online, sell online. And marketing has evolved because we saw that traditional marketing roles going down, because everybody was posting, like, Claude just killed marketing, Claude did this, ChatGPT did that. But we saw the aftermath as well, because those pages weren't converting. People weren't relating to what ChatGPT would spit out or what Claude would give you, right? And then people started up, because I see, even if you just open up Upwork regularly and you look at the content writing jobs, they were certainly gone for a couple of years or a year and a half, and now they're coming back. Everybody needs human written content again, because A, it is what humans will want to read, and B, ironically enough, in order to get recommended by AI, cited in those AI searches, you need human written content. So that's where we've come back full circle like that. So, and now again, people are looking for human written content so that they get high rankings in Google. And with the last updates, you need to be recommended by AI to be visible, and for that you need human written content. So that's what the marketing piece has evolved and probably grown back into within the past year and a half.
The does that mirror your experience, Justin?
It does very much so, especially with marketing and you know I would say even more than just the last year in terms of the change. I think you can go back to 7, 8 years, 10 years, even. Kind of the start of social media marketing. Before
Yeah.
AI was big, but when 20 years ago there wasn't social media marketing like there was today. Everything was old fashioned, in person events, uh, workshops, whatever. Billboards. Like it's almost kind of hard to think about marketing before social media and before internet, now that it's here, because we see the power of it. And and with AI, one of the questions I wanted to ask you, Aisha, is that you know I do believe AI has a place in the world. I think that it does have its benefits. I kind of want to get your thoughts on where you think that it should be used, and where you think that it or are you someone that believes that it is completely unnecessary, or do you see a place for AI in the work field, and people are just
I mean,
misusing
there's
it or overusing it or taking advantage of it and trying to get by easy?
Yeah, so like the way I explain this is, AI is a tool, and how efficiently it's going to work for you, it all depends on like who is using it, right? The human
Hmm.
behind the tool. I usually say this, like it's like an oven, and an oven, the job for that oven is to bake a cake, but the taste and the texture and the quality of that cake will depend on the chef's hand and their own recipe and how they use the oven, right? So it's the same with AI. It's a tool, and yes, you can drastically reduce your like routine work, and you can get efficient in doing the day-to-day things that don't require unique results. AI has enabled us to put in so many automations in place and all of that, but I believe that at the end of the day, whatever you're posting should go through human eyes, because you cannot expect it to act like a magic wand that you just do this and the pumpkin will turn into the carriage for Cinderella. It doesn't work that way. It has to
Yeah.
be used with caution, and it has to be used with like you cannot outsource your thinking or decision making, because once you start doing that, it starts acting like an echo chamber, and you get very weird results out of it as well. But I've seen, because I work in content, right? So a lot of market research goes into building those brand narratives before you can write the content and the story that any brand would need, right? So I've had clients come to me from different niches, working with the pro models, working with free plans. And somehow, once they're like, oh, we did our market research with XYZ AI tool, right? And the results that they send me for that market research are always the same. And if you find that one, like usually now this is getting rare, but once you find that person who has done, like actually, like Jose said, he got to talk to people once he was in that library, right? And that was market research. So that's the gold mine. Once you get to talk to the actual humans that you're writing for, and you get to see the thought and then the kind of language that they use, as a copywriter, as a content writer, that's what I focus on. So once you see the kind of language and the phrases that you're using, use that in your copy, that's when it starts clicking. That's when it starts bringing in results and conversions and all of that, right? So that's where AI cannot help you. And literally, I've seen this, that somebody in like one person was a graphic designer, the other one was I don't know, they were a coach, and then there was a third person doing something completely different. Once they came back, they had the same pain points. This person is in established so and so, they're making so much money, and then these are their pain points, and the pain points were all the same. And they weren't really something that you could build the brand on, because everybody's using the same thing, right? So how do you stand out if you're going to use the same building blocks to bring your brand that everybody else is using? So the person who's going to do the extra work is going to you'd actually use their brain and do some thinking and go out, meet people and ask the right questions and extract those stories from those meetings. Those are the people who are going to get a brand that people will relate to and buy from, because we are here to create trust online, because everybody's selling online. I'm here from Pakistan, you're here from Mexico, and then there are people from US and Germany and all of that. So we are sitting in this one room, right? And we are all selling, and so many of us are selling the same thing. So if you want to stand out from one another, if you want people to come to you and not the 10 others who are doing the exactly same thing that you're doing, you need to stand out. And that comes from building that unique brand narrative that only you can tell, because it's your story and it's your journey and it's how you get to do what you're doing. And it's like, you learn one thing from the university and you come out, and then there's your own way of doing those things, because that's how experience teaches you, and then your own creativity and intelligence pours into it, right? So you come up with your own unique blend of the way you do something. And again, it's like the cake and the oven, because everybody has their own way of mixing. Even if following the same recipe, everybody will come up with a different cake, because it's how they've done it, that unique human touch. So that is what is needed. And sure, use AI wherever it saves you time. You can start with a rough draft. You can give it your thoughts and ask it to give you that first edit, but go in and then make the changes and see if it makes sense, or if you want to change it. Or sometimes I've gone so far as having AI write something for me, and then I'll see, okay, if AI is doing this, how can I go completely different and separate
Mm-hmm.
myself from this and position myself from a completely different angle. So I've even used it like that. So automations where possible, yes, but be very careful, especially in terms of communication as a brand. If you're automating your conversations, very weird things can happen there as well. You end up promising things you don't realize it has actually happened. Somebody sent me a message and they promised something, and then once I was ready and I did whatever needed to be done, and I got back to them and they were like, when did I say that? So they didn't realize that the message they had sent through AI had promised something that they weren't planning to promise. So it gets pretty
Thank,
weird. So yeah, keep
thank
an
you,
eye on
Aisha.
what it's giving you. Yeah.
I'm going to, Aisha, you mind if I just put you off to the side for a moment? I'm going to bring on our next speaker, and then I'm going to bring you back.